Alright, tonight we're going to be working on a Primaris Intercessor. I'm going to paint this up in Imperial Fist colors. Now, yellow is intimidating for a lot of people, but I actually find it kind of fun, and there's a few different ways to approach it. Tonight we're going to start off with mahogany, so we're going to start off with a rich, deep brown undertone. This works up well. Mahogany's a little bit red, so a little bit ruddy, and that will turn into a nice rich yellow. Now that we've got a solid layer of mahogany down, I'm going to start working in Averland Sunset. This is the Citadel color, and I use this pretty often. So I'm just going to work that slowly over the mahogany, leaving mahogany in the recesses. So the shadows that we leave are nice and saturated with that mahogany, and probably a little bit of a spritz of this Averland Sunset as we go. Take it easy, take it slow, and just nice thin layers. Build up where you think the light is going to show the most. I kind of assume a somewhat top down and from the front light direction. And so you'll notice I catch things that are kind of sticking out, as well as the tops of the backpack, shoulders, and helmet. Got our Averland Sunset down, we're going to get out our Flash Gitz yellow and go in and enhance the yellow that we have laid down and make it a lot brighter. This is going to saturate that Averland Sunset with a nice bright, almost neon yellow. And I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of the Averland Sunset, as well as the flow improver, just to help that along with the transition. I'm going to mix some ivory into my Flash Gitz yellow. So I empty out most of the Flash Gitz and then mix in some ivory along with some more flow improver. We're going to make this a nice high value, desaturated kind of a sunset yellow, pale yellow. So if you want to match that with something else, that works, but we're going to hit the very highs. Almost get a little bit of a reflection as if this is a metal or a shiny reflective surface, somewhat reflective. But we're going to get some shine spots here and really focus on those high highs. We've got all of our airbrushing done. It's time to start hitting details. I'm going to start by getting some dark Prussian blue out and base coating in the eyes and a couple of lenses and spots in the armor here that I want to end up making blue. We'll return to those later, but we're just putting the base coat down for now. break out some of our secret weapon, Tire Black. We're going to use this to block in the bolter. And this is kind of an off-black color. It's a little bit of a dark teal green if you really break it down, but it leaves a very nice saturated undertone for what we're going to want to do in just a few minutes. Red trim on the shoulder pads for this Imperial Fist, as well as blocking in a slight little scroll on one of the shoulders. So I'm going to start off by breaking out our mahogany again, going in and blocking in that trim and scroll work. At this point, I'm going to break out our Burnt Red from Acryl and start building up the red along the trim of the shoulder pads. I'm going to bring it up red closer to the top where the light is shining and leaving it more brown towards the shadows. Again, we want saturated shadows. Break out our bold Pyrrole red, bring it up just a little bit hotter. We're also going to make a few highlights here on our blue lenses there. A little different. time to start working on some armor details. We're going to do a couple of things here. We need to bring some black into some of the joints. We also need to bring some edge highlights into the armor panels. We'll be using our Averland Sunset again, as well as Bright Ivory from Pro Acryl, and mixtures thereof. Back to this little scroll on the shoulder and use a mixture of the Mahogany and Averland Sunset that's out on my palette. And then here comes the matte black that will work into the joints. So I'm trying to reuse as much paint as possible as I go. And a little bit off camera here, but the little jointed areas with the segmented areas as well as the pouches here, I'm going to base as matte black. I'm not going to really go back to the joint parts because it's not really terribly visible after you do this, but I will be highlighting up these pouches a little bit later. Sunset and then moving into our Bright Ivory here on the scroll work. Just again using colors that we've already pulled out for other things. The saturation of the red, bringing up the highlights a little bit more and making sure that edge is defined well enough. I took a little bit of a moment here to do so to clean it up, but this is just kind of tidiness. You can do as little or as much as you want to get the effect that you want. I want to make sure this is nice and tidy and defined. Next I'm breaking out Arcane Blue and Blue Horror. Arcane Blue is from P3 and Blue Horror from Citadel. We're going to use these to do a couple of different things. The main one is get the eyes and the lenses that we've defined out on our Imperial Fist, but we'll also go back and use these a little bit later on the bolts. Also going to reuse a little bit of that Bright Ivory to get the very high shine on the lenses here. So we're going to start working on the bolt rifle, and we're going to use Stegadon Scale Green. We'll saturate in some of the black areas on the bolt rifle and really hit the edges. This will give us a nice undertone for the next couple of layers and pieces of the work up. I'm going to go completely non-metallic on this, even though I'm not very confident in my steel non-metallics. There's two pieces that we're going to bring in that are going to look like steel. Steel non-metallic on the barrel and the back of the bolt rifle. We're going to use Cantabric Blue, Bearing Blue, and Arctic Blue from scale 75 and various mixtures thereof. I'm going to kind of go back and forth a little bit here. I start a little bit heavy-handed. I'm not terribly happy with it, but I end up adjusting it. Really, I needed to add more shadow in here to begin with. But we'll work it out. Remember, nothing's ever really broken. Start edge highlighting in the black panels as well, over where we put down the Stegadon scale green using a bit of our Arcane Blue and the Blue Horror that we got out before. Various mixtures thereof, with a couple of high points with the Bright Ivory yet again. This is all we gotta do to make it look black and shiny. Kind of tough, but mostly I'm hitting edge highlights, and I'm also bringing in a little bit of the end of the barrel because I haven't drilled it. I'm going to sketch it in, and I want to make it look realistic, so I'm adding some highlights around it as well. I'm trying to give some high shine lines to the steel parts as well as the top of the scope. Flash gets yellow again here to bring out some of the edge highlights on the armor panels. This is going to be a mixture of Averland Sunset, Flash gets yellow, about the direction of the light that you want on the Mini as you apply these edge highlights and specular highlights. There shouldn't necessarily be highlights everywhere, and they should be different colors and shades depending on how much light that they're being exposed to. I'm putting the brightest ones forward and more towards the top, as I believe that's where the light is coming from, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video. Start finishing up these last little details, I'm going to bring in a couple of highlights with the same colors we used on the bolt rifle onto the pouch here on the belt, making it the same color and material. I kind of go back and forth a little bit on this, and then afterwards when I break the Mini off of the base to attach to a permanent base, I paint the rim of the feet black. Now after I do this step, looks like we're finished. All we need is a base next. I'll make a quick base using some of the colors that we had out on our palette and attach it to it as soon as I'm done. I would add a decal here, but the decal I had ended up getting destroyed. But we have a great looking Imperial Fist, ready for decal and squad markings. See you next week here on YouTube, and I'll see you on the weekends on Twitch. Have a great weekend. Paint some minis.